Hello, Peekers, and welcome back to the Plot Peak podcast. I'm Miranda.
And I'm Mackenzie, and this is your one-stop shop for storytelling.
Tea spilling.
And to keep up with all the latest book talk drama that you have been missing out on. Truly missing out on.
Truly. Yeah, that's our bad. We'll go ahead and address the elephant in the room. You guys have been with us from the beginning. You know, we're not IT girlies, and we were having significant IT problems to the point where we actually almost shaved our heads. So
we did consider quitting. Instead, I just spent a fortune on a new computer. So if you don't listen now, we hate you. I'm just kidding.
Hate you.
I'm just
No, she did. She dropped so much money on a new computer for the 4 followers that are listening to us.
Yeah. So basically, you're going to have to share. You're going to have to tell your friends or else.
We will leave you hanging again. We'll leave you hanging again on another last episode. Didn't we tell them we were like, maybe we'll give you the next episode within the week? And it's been like 3 weeks.
Well, we had every intention to give you the episode sooner than later. However,
we didn't.
We didn't want to. So get over it.
Mental health
We're
breaks.
just going to keep you on your toes. So maybe we'll release 2 episodes in 1 week. Maybe we'll go dark for a month. Who knows?
So I know we left off finishing with Rowan and Aelin. They had just conquered the General Narok's army. She found her power. She conquered her fear. She went and confronted Maeve, and then Rowan was released from his blood oath. And now Aelin is on her way back to Rifthold to find Arabin to get the Wordstone key that he stole from her because it was really like a necklace. It was described as a necklace heirloom thing, but she found out that it was the word key. So she's got to go back and find him, get that, and kill the king.
Casual.
Yeah, so casual. Super easy to-do list to get done, yada, yada. And now we're going to move on to Manon and the boys. So we're going to finish up the rest of the Heir of Fire book today, and we're going to read through the last bit of everybody's chapters. Do you have anything to say before I jump right into it? Because I know the people have been waiting for this.
No, I think we should go into it. We're coming back, guys.
We're back full force, and we're going for it. All right. So, long story short, the wing leader trials are coming on for the witches. Okay. So they've all been training for it, and battles have come, and they are going to see who comes out victorious and is going to be the wing leader in the king's army. So the general gist of it is that there's 3 nests for each of the covens, and there's 3 glass eggs for each of those covens. And the goal is basically to capture all the eggs, and whoever does that wins the games. Basically, Manon and her team, elite. We already know the 13 are elite. She went to the Blue Bloods first. They got the eggs so easy. They came back to the nest, conquered everything, and then they're like, let's go on to the Yellow Legs now. Yellow Legs were definitely a way stronger unit ready to go after the Blackbeaks. And during that time when they were all fighting, Petra from the Blue Blood heir line over there, she was like, this might be the perfect opportunity for me to jump in and steal the Yellow Legs eggs while they're fighting the 13. So she's up there, she's trying to steal their eggs. And then Iskra notices this is going down. So she goes flying after Petra, and her wyvern starts attacking Keely, which was Petra's wyvern. And she is not holding back one bit. She is like trying to kill Keely. And it's not how the rules are supposed to be. They're supposed to be strictly light touching, no killing moves at all. This is just for practice. And she's full on trying to murder her. Meanwhile, Manon is watching Iskra being distracted. And she's like, this would be my perfect time to steal the egg now. Maybe I should go do that. But Abraxos is like, girl, do you not see what's going on up there? They're literally trying to kill my friends, and we should not be doing that. That's, basically what I'm interpreting.
That's how I think he would say it as well.
Yeah. So he's just sitting there, and he's not moving. And then Iskra's wyvern is like shaking Keely so hard. She breaks her neck, and then like they start falling down. It's going down this huge steep cliff. And so Keely and Petra are attached to each other. They're falling down. Manon is like, I should still go get the egg. And then Abraxas is like, no, they're literally falling to their death.
Girl, no.
No, girl. And then they hear the Blue Blood's matron start screaming because they see Petra falling to her imminent death. And that sent the shivers to Manon and Abraxas. And immediately they knew what they needed to do. And they flew after those two. So they fly down, and because Abraxas is so small, he's able to catch up to them pretty quickly with the speeds of their fall. And Manon is trying to get over onto Keely. And she's like, you got to try to get super still. I know she's like dying right now, but please try to be still as possible. And Abraxas is roaring to Keely, telling her what's going on, trying to tell her to like try to stay as still as possible. Manon gets over onto Keely's mount, unhooks Petra, and brings her back over to Abraxas right before she crashes to the bottom of the cliffs. And it's just so sad because during that moment, it's like Keely was trying so hard to stay stable, try to save her rider. And Manon could see her trying to fight to save her rider. And she even thanks her before she jumps back over to Abraxas and says thank you. And I thought it was so sad.
That is so sad. Oh. And you know, she was trying so hard to keep her afloat and just to keep her from falling. That shows that they are very loving creatures, like very loyal creatures.
Loyal and much more intelligent and with it than the men of the king think, for sure. So Manon's team ends up winning this whole war. After that whole spiel, though, her grandma was not happy. Go figure. So she thinks that Manon basically embarrassed the Blackbeaks and the whole Iron Teeth witch clans because of choosing to save someone over going after the mission and being strong and cutthroat. So to give her a punishment, Manon's grandma decides she's going to need to kill a Crocran witch. And this Crocran witch was apparently spying amongst them, and she was caught. And so she was brought out in front of them. Manon's grandma was like, I need you to kill her to show that you are still loyal to us. You understand our code. You're going to do what needs to be done. And this is our mortal enemy, so do what you need to do. Slit her throat in front of everybody. And Manon is just kind of sitting there. She's like, this seems really sus on one hand. And she's looking at this witch, and she's beat up. This witch is beat up. She's obviously been here for a minute being tortured. No one knew that she was here. So one, grandma was hiding secrets from Manon. Two, now she's bringing her out here and making her show her loyalty in front of everybody. And so she gives this witch a moment to speak. And the witch essentially is kind of spilling the tea and is like, I know that you guys think that we're the ones holding a secret on why you can't go back to your place and blah, blah, blah. All this stuff saying that why they're cursed, essentially. And she gets down to the point of it and saying, the truth is, you guys are the reason why you can't go home. You guys are the reason why your home is famished or barren, and why you can't go back and live your life like you want, because you're evil and you're choosing to be evil. And I want you to remember my death as a murder, because that is what this is going to be. You guys are murdering for no reason, and this is why you have the curse that you have.
That's tea.
It is tea. And that makes me wonder. I'm like, so this whole time they've been angry at these Crocran witches and having a war against them for over 500 years, when really they could have just been good people and had their world back. Is that what I'm getting?
Essentially, yeah. Well, basically, they have to be united, but they each blame each other. They each blame each other for losing their lands.
Interesting. So the Crocran witches are blaming the Iron Teeth witches and vice versa.
Or the Crocran witches are blaming like the Iron Teeth, the Blue Bloods, the Yellow Legs, all of them, and all of the Iron Teeth, Yellow Leg, and Blue Blood witches are blaming the Crocans, and they just want them all dead. And they're like, well, that's how we'll do it. We'll be united once you're all dead.
Right. So after that whole spiel, Manon looks up at her grandma, and as this Crocran witch is finishing up, and her grandma is giving this stupid face, like smiling, like she knew what she was saying was true. Like she's not surprised by what she's saying. And Manon is like, Okay, fine. I guess that's interesting. I'll keep that noted in my head. And the witch spits blood out and looks at Manon, and she just tells her to do it. She's like, just fucking kill me already. So Manon flips her dagger, grabs her hair, pulls her neck back, and slices her throat without a second thought. Later that night, though, she has to go reflect after this whole ordeal because, again, her grandma was not surprised by what the Croaking Witch had said. Her grandma was making her kill somebody for no reason, essentially just to prove loyalty. And after the Croaking Witch had told her that it was essentially their fault for not being able to get home, she's just got a lot of feelings in her head. So she's out here looking out into the night sky with Abraxos and just kind of like recognizing this feeling, a new emotion. It seems like she's developing like emotional intelligence where she's like, I kind of regret not even knowing her name. Like, I don't know why I feel this way, but something feels off about what I just did. Like, I did it, okay, but something feels off, you know?
Yeah. I feel like this is probably one of the first times the first time she's killed a Croaking Witch and felt anything about it. I think the words definitely rattled her. And I also think that the way her grandmother brought it to her and like presented her as a platter, and then to have this witch say all of these things, it felt something felt off, something felt staged. It felt like, why am I doing this type thing?
Yeah.
I think that's this is the first killing that's ever like rattled her.
I know. And when I was reading that part, it made me feel like this was the first insight that she could be potentially a good guy eventually down the line, or like a morally gray good guy. Like, I just feel like she is starting to recognize there is right and wrong. She still has done things in her life that is technically bad, but she's not like regretful of those things because that's in her nature. But she is knowing like there is a point where it's like, why did we have to kill that person? Mm-hmm. Was that justified? No.
I think that's one of the reasons I like these books so much is there aren't many main characters in this book that aren't a little morally gray. Like I feel like Sarah J. Maas does a really good job of like humanizing her characters and making them seem very relatable in a sense, even though this is like a magic world, like totally outside of our wheelhouse. But she also gives them all of these traits that are bad as well, and still like can make these bad guys good guys. You know what I mean? Because Selena is not a good person, or I mean, she's not a bad person, but she doesn't have all good traits. She's not a saint. Yeah. Rowan, who is kind of becoming a bigger character, not a saint. You know, like
he hit a woman.
He hit a woman. And then even Dorian, I mean, he's kind of a good boy, but he's like a player. Chaol is, maybe that's why I don't like Chaol, because he's the only one that's giving the most moral. I don't know. I'm like, God.
Like, come on, just give a little bit.
Go a little bad. Go a little bad. Maybe we'll like you.
Yeah. We're like, come on, corrupt yourself.
Nice guys do finish last.
Really? You think so?
No, I don't think so in real life, but
in real life, yeah, but in the books for sure.
Yeah, nice guys.
Speaking of, bug. Speaking of, I'm reading a new book. So, side note, guys, because we have to catch up. And so I can't keep reading all these books, the Throne of Glass books. I have to read other books. And right now I'm reading, what's it called? A Touch of Darkness. And it's like a Persephone and Hades spinoff kind of story. And I'm obsessed with it right now. I'm like really in it. Hades is like a good bad guy. And I'm like.
You said morally gray main character.
I said, I like this guy here. No, but it was so crazy because I heard so many people talking about Bride. And I read that book. It was cute. It was good. I enjoyed it. But I definitely enjoyed this book way better. And I don't know what the difference is per se. I think I like high beings better, like high fays and goddesses and gods and stuff like that. I think that's my tea.
Because you want to be royalty.
It's true. I do.
You said, and I am.
And I am. It turns out, actually, while I'm reading this, I'm Persephone. So I'm like, oh.
You said me? Perhaps.
A goddess? Okay, sure.
Well, since we're on a tangent, I'll go ahead. I'm reading One Dark Window right now, which somebody gifted us from our TikTok. We won a little book giveaway thing, so I'm reading it now. And this one is cool, but it's a little different. This one is people develop magic from infections. They get infected with something dark, and that's how they get magic. And the people that are infected with magic are being hunted down and killed.
Oh. Are you in the beginning of it, or have you gotten to part 2 of it yet?
Probably maybe a third of the way through the book. I will say the writing style's a little different for me. Also, an issue, I've been reading it at work, so it's been taking me, and I don't have a lot of downtime. So I've been just reading it on my little breaks and stuff like that. So it's taken me a lot longer than normal to read a book. And I think that I've been breaking it up too much. It's a little hard for me to get into, but recently in the last couple days, the chapters that I've read have started to develop more of that story. And there is a little romance blooming with a morally gray hunter of magic people and an infected girly.
What's it called? Forbidden Love?
Forbidden Love.
Love that trope.
Yeah, they're going into a potential fake romance to deceive people now, which is another one of my favorite tropes. We're dating for the public, but we have ulterior motives type thing.
Right. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
I only ask if you're into it or how far you're into it because I just saw, I think one of your friends, Hi Lady Tay or something.
Yes, Taylor. I commented on that post. I told her that I am also struggling to get into it. But I think...
Yeah, but then when she got to part 2, she said, never mind, I got it.
Yeah, I just got to part 2 today. I didn't see that updated post, but I'll have to respond because part 2 is getting a lot better. So a little more of the romances coming into play, a little more of the true storyline, the mystique of it all. So
I guess the first half is just story building.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Anyway, back to the story.
So, with her new title as wing leader, Manon and her other witches are ordered to go to Marath to reside with Duke Parrington, and they are to be ready to fly at a moment's notice. The other half of the witches will remain at the Gap under Iskra's command until they get word that they're needed and to be deployed. So Manon and her 13 are now off to Marath. And then back in Aderlin, everyone hears about the slave camp massacres. Chaol knows that he needs to talk to Dorian about making moves against his dad. He's got to stop him. When he finds him, though, he's with Sorsha. But Dorian is like, whatever you have to say to me, she deserves to know. So Chaol explains everything, the word keys, the magic spells, connected to the tower theory, and how between those 3 spots, the king is breeding some kind of army associated with people who have magic in their blood. Chaol believes that Dorian might be able to replicate the spell that caused the man to vanish, but he's afraid to do such a bold move against the king because that would welcome a full-on war. And Dorian is like, listen, I want you to know that even if it meant for us to be friends again, I wouldn't go back to how things were before. I like the change that's going on, and you should embrace it too. And hearing Dorian speak during this time, Chaol knew that Dorian just had his character arc because he was speaking and holding himself like a true king.
I really like this part in the book because Chaol also starts to see him as, okay, I am devoted to the kingdom of Aderlin, but I see Dorian as my king, as my future king. And Chaol is starting to come to terms with fighting this part of himself that knows that the king is wrong for what he's doing and still staying loyal to what he believes and his morals and his kingdom. I do feel like this is when Chaol starts to piece together that Dorian is my king and I serve my kingdom. So I want to serve Dorian type thing. And he's still wrestling with all the magic, but I think this is when the pieces start to come together for Chaol. He's still an idiot. For sure. Still hate him. But
he still is an idiot, but we got to respect Dorian needs somebody on his side. And as long as Chaol's on his side, I think I'm happy with that. So word about Aelin's return reaches Aedion, and he is lit because he knows that she's back and she's ready to be a true queen. Chaol tells his men to notify Elwë to keep holding on the resistance and to be prepared to rise against the king. And eventually news spreads everywhere, and everyone knows that Aelin Galathynius is alive and willing to stand against the king of Adarlan. And the king is not happy. He is extremely pissed to hear about this, and Dorian is doing everything he can to keep his mouth shut as he listens to his father devise all these plans to end her. Dorian knows that she's going to return like she promised, and he hopes that by the time that she does, they will have a plan to tear down these towers, free magic, and change the world together. Because as far as we know, the king doesn't realize that Aelin is actually Celaena. He still thinks that Celaena is in Gwendolyn helping take down the mortal realm. And Chaol is still going back and forth on what Aelin's battle cry actually means. He knows that Celaena would have chosen him, but now what would Aelin do? And would Aelin be the same bloodthirsty, unyielding person he knew Celaena could be when she's hurt? We don't know. He doesn't know if he's going to be able to accept her as a queen, and Chaol is honestly giving me the ick at this point in time during this, revelation and thinking about her. And to me, it's just you know what she's fighting for and the cause that she's going after, and he knows that the king is a piece of shit. So I'm just get over it, please.
I actually just had this moment in my head right now.
Just now?
Just
Live?
now, literally just now.
Live
thinking
action?
about
Okay.
Chaol. And it just gave me a disgusting touch of sympathy for him.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep bashing
I'm
on him.
fuck Chaol. No.
There's more.
No, it just gave me this little touch of sympathy for him. But what I was thinking
Period.
about is Chaol is giving me someone that is having trouble letting go of an ex. His ex is the kingdom of Adarlan and all that it stands for. Okay. And he's slowly putting together the pieces that it's bad. It's bad for me. It's bad for everything around me. And I am trying to find ways to make it better. And there's a threat coming in type thing. Does this making sense a little bit?
It's kind of, yeah.
At this point, he knows that the king is bad. He knows that it's bad for him, and he knows that it's bad for the people around him. He's trying to make it better. He's trying to do all these things. He wants Dorian in power. He wants all of this stuff. And he's seeing all of these things come from the outside. He's seeing Aelin as a threat to what he believes is right for him and what he believes is right.
Yeah.
And I just got this little sense of ugh, he really is trying to make something work and be moral and be as good of a person as possible and to be as truthful to himself as possible.
Yeah, because I feel like Adarlan, it was its own kingdom before all of this even happened. So he has a right to have that kind of defensive and protectiveness over his home.
Mm-hmm.
But it's he doesn't know if Aelin is trying to pick up where the king left off, I think is where he's concerned. And he doesn't know if she's going to try to just go on a rampage on Adarlan and just kill everybody.
Yeah.
Which is valid.
Did that make sense?
No, I think it made sense. And I think that's good that you share your light of respect towards him because
I still hate the way he reacts to everything. However, I guess it is pretty realistic to think that he's having a hard time letting go of what he believes to be right.
Yeah.
What he really wants to be right, and he wants to do it the most moral, efficient way possible that's right for him and his kingdom, And
you got to think too, if we were genuinely in this position as the second person to protect the crown and we knew all this was going down, this would be an extremely hard situation to battle. You can tell that this person is wrong, but what are you going to do? How are you going to overthrow the main person of this kingdom and try to protect everything else and make somebody else succeed in power? It's stressful. I would be very stressed.
Well, and Chaol doesn't know everything about Celaena. He doesn't know all of her struggles in her past. He doesn't know all of her overcoming that she's had to do. He knows the story, but he doesn't know all of the details of what makes her her and what she stands for. And he doesn't know how, like you said, how she's going to react, because our girl has been known to be a little impulsive at times and a little aggressive.
She's just a girl.
She's just a small girl, and I think he's still wrong for thinking it, but I guess I could see where he's coming from a bit.
We'll give him a little bit less hate, but
the hate is here. The respect is here. But it just went up a smidge,
A smidge, a little bit. Hey, it's a step above. So
this is not a Chaol hate podcast, but
rewind like 2 episodes and it kind of was. All right. So Chaol turns in his recommendation for his replacement when he leaves back to Anile. And as he's reflecting on his last days as captain of the guard, he gets summoned to meet the king. When he gets there, the vibes are immediately terrible. The king is grinning, which is strike 1. He's surrounded by 15 of those mysterious guards with the new royal uniform, strike 2. And then Sorcha's healing preceptor, Amethy, brings in Sorcha and Dorian, strike number 3. Amethy tells the king that Dorian was trying to help Sorcha run away, and when the king asks why, he tells him straight up, I can't stand the thought of her spending another minute in this festering shithole you call your court. Yes, Dorian, someone had to say it, and I am so happy and I'm here for him. He's like standing up. He's like, this is it. Like, you pushed me to the edge.
This was Dorian's like shining moment of just like, eat a bag of dicks, dad.
Yeah, eat a bag of dicks.
This was like, oh man, I was like, this is coming to a head. It's finally happened. You say it. I am scared though right now. I'm very scared.
You should be. Okay. Because Aedion is also in there. And both he and Chaol are watching and waiting for the king to retaliate. And the king agrees with Dorian that, yeah, she shouldn't be here. And then he orders his shady guards to throw her to the ground and place a sword to her throat. Dorian is like, you better fucking not do that. Just tell me what you want and I'll do it. So the king says, I hear that Aedion and Chaol have been having secret meetings, and I would like to know what it was all about. And this is the only time that I'm thankful for that miscommunication trope and Chaol's stupid secrets, because Dorian is like, I actually have no idea. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they're talking about. Who could say?
Who could know?
And then the king is like, yeah, well, I've heard that there's a spy in this castle giving tips to end me to the rebel group. So if you don't tell me who that is, I'll just kill her. And at this point, Chaol is about to confess everything when Aedion blurts out that it was him. He throws his fake black ring on the floor and he's like, yeah, it was me. Chaol caught me meeting with the rebels and was going to use me as blackmail for when he needed a favor in return in Anile. But honestly, I don't care what happens now because my queen is coming and you're going to burn in hell. Spitting at the king's feet, I did not see that coming one bit because Aedion and Chaol are barely friends. And then Aedion was supposed to be Aelin's right hand when she returns. And now he's either going to be dead or locked away in the royal dungeons.
I just got chills when you said that, though, of like what Aedion said. I'm pretty sure it's Aedion, too.
I'm going to say Aedion.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Anyway, no, whenever Aedion has his moments, I will say.
He's like a bimbo.
He's an idiot, kind of.
Yeah.
In like a very loyal way.
In the most endearing way.
Yeah. That's just Aedion. But I will say, my guy will stand up for what he believes. And he's like, well, whatever. Fuck it. You know, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. And he is also trying to save an innocent life, you know, with Sorcha.
Yeah. And I think that it goes again to show that Aedion is a direct reflection of who Aelin is. I feel like they truly are mirror images. Like Aelin obviously is way more smart than Aedion, but other than that, they have the same like drive
like
and
fire.
Intentions. And yeah.
Yeah, they're really very much like twin flames kind of in like a very family sense.
In a familial
You know,
sense.
Everyone, if you've seen Twin Flames, it's not like that. Or is it?
Me and Colby have twin flame tattoos.
Oh, I was like, what are you doing? You were like, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I wish you guys that are listening could see what Miranda was doing. She just had her hand pressed, like her finger pressed up to her shoulders and she's like wiggling back and forth. And I didn't realize she was pointing at a tattoo because it's very small and subtle. I just thought she was just staring at me, just wiggling her shoulders. I was like, okay, what are we doing? I was like, did the audio cut out or?
No, it's just funny because another fun fact. One time when me and Colby were in Memphis, we went to an ice cream shop and this person at the ice cream center was like, are you guys related? Fun fact, my husband's white, like very white, and I'm mixed.
Like the most Caucasian. And Miranda looks very mixed, but that's okay.
And I was like, why would she say that? Is she just trying to like trigger us right now? Why is she saying that? That was so rude.
Well, we did get a comment that we look like the like the same person, just different races. And I'm sure you guys, all 4 of our listeners, know what me and Miranda look like.
So anybody else, feel free to let us know.
I take as a complete compliment, though. I will say that because you're so beautiful.
I think she was being mean to us.
She said, "Are you related to that black girl?"
No, it was so rude. It was really rude. I was like, why is she?
Did you laugh? What did you say?
No, she said it with like a straight face. Like we asked for our ice cream, and I think we were like being like cutie because this was in the beginning of our relationship, and we were like being cute and all over. And she's like, "What are you guys related?" What?
Yeah,
so
best
confused.
brother ever, and you should have just laid one on him.
Brother ever. No, yeah, that's next time.
Next time
somebody confuses me being related to somebody, I'm be like, best sibling ever. Kiss them right on the
lips. I would kiss
lips.
you. If somebody ever told us we looked related, I'd be like, best sister ever. And I would give you the slightest peck.
With tongue?
Perhaps. We'll see when the moment arises.
All right. Sorry, we got to get back into a serious mode.
This is very serious.
It's very serious. So apparently this was not the answer that the king was wanting or looking for. Apparently the king knows who the spy is. Sorcha. Amity had found out that one of her secret letters that she was going to send out was in the trash can, and that's how she put 2 and 2 together and reported it to the king. Dorian is like, please just leave her alone. I'm begging you. And Sorcha turns to Dorian during this time and she tells her truth. She was spying on the king and she wasn't supposed to fall in love with Dorian, but she did, and she wishes that they had more time. Dorian begs his dad just to name any price, anything at all to release her. And the king looks around like he's considering, and then he says no. And as he said it, the guard swung and cleaved Sorcha's head right off of her body. And this was just like the most tragic fucking scene that I could have ever read. It kind of reminded me of that scene in Game of Thrones in the very beginning when the dad was on trial and you were like, he's a main character. There's no way they're going to die. And then dies within seconds. Like it was just like within a second, dead.
Very like Red Wedding vibes.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, you just were not expecting it because I don't know if we portrayed as well as we could have, but like Sorcha and Dorian's chapters in this book were very like Sorcha was a very big part of this book. You know, like her and Dorian, every chapter that Dorian had, Sorcha was in some way a part of it. Like, even though it was a short time, I do think they had developed a pretty decent bond. And I think he really did love her. And I think she really did love him. But also, like, this scene was heart-wrenching.
Heart-wrenching. It was so sad. Like, and it didn't just stop with her saying, like, the head was cut off. Like, blood was squirting everywhere. Her head was rolling down the floor. It was just, and Dorian is, oh, God, it was just so awful. So Chaol draws his sword after hearing the heart-shattering scream that came from Dorian, who was now holding Sorcha's headless body on the ground. And he tells the king, there's a queen in the north who's already beaten you once and will do it again because she and your son represent what you fear the most, hope. And the king is like, okay, fine. So we'll kill you too. And then a hidden crossbow shooter takes a shot and the room freezes. And the arrow freezes midair. Shook, Chaol looks at Dorian, who's just exposed his magic to save his life. And his eyes were glowing with this raging blue. As the room continued to freeze, stopping all the guards in their tracks, the king gave an evil smile and said, I knew you had it in you, boy. He starts to get up, and Dorian is throwing everything at the king to slow him down and tells Chaol to run. And Chaol realizes this was a grand trap for all of them. For Aedion, for Aelin, for Sorcha, for Dorian to expose his powers. And Chaol knew that he was the only one left that could run away and help find Aelin, bring her back here to help. They say, I love you to each other because they don't know what's going to happen after this. And Chaol runs from Dorian and lets Dorian face the king on his own. He goes to Dorian's room, he grabs Fleetfoot, and then runs to Celaena's secret tunnels to grab some gold and weapons from the tomb. And after he's cleared the castle, he ran to Celaena's hidden apartment where he runs into Ren, one of the other rebels that we've talked about, and tells him everything that's been going down and that they have to go. And the tea with this is that apparently Ren was the friend that Sorcha was feeding all of this information to since they found out that Aelin was alive. And he'd been pressuring Sorcha for more information. So now he feels like she's dead because of him. And I don't think it was all his fault, but he is a very annoying ally.
Yeah, Ren.
It could be his fault, actually. I don't know.
Ren is kind of an idiot. I feel like
more of an idiot than Aiden.
He means well. He means well, but he is just not the brightest.
Ruining everything.
Yeah, he's not the brightest. So maybe it is all his fault.
Yeah, if I were a mean person, I would probably guilt trip him and be like,
yeah, it is your fault.
It was your fault, actually.
Why'd you get her killed?
You were the one asking her for all these information, so.
You're right. It is your fault, I guess.
It's not funny, is it? But it's not funny, is it?
It is.
Okay. All right, so back in the court chambers with the king is throwing all of his black magic at Dorian, throwing it down his throat, filling his veins as he screamed because Dorian was hitting the end of his well. So all of the ice and stuff that he was throwing at the king and the guards to freeze, he's running out. He's reaching his burnout point. And so now he's completely drained. He's laying on the ground, reaching out for Sorcha's headless body. And his dad comes up to Dorian, and Dorian turns and tells him, just do it. Just kill me now. But that is not what the king had planned for his son. He crouches down to Dorian and brings out a black wordstone collar that snaps around his neck, allowing all the darkness to sweep in. And that's where it ends.
Oh, I have chills. And then, oh God, Dorian has just been low-key possessed. And then the book basically ends. High-key possessed.
Yeah. High-key. Yeah, and I am so excited to jump into this next one because, I didn't see that coming when I was reading this. I was like, he did that to his son? What the fuck?
He is the
insane.
Absolute most evil person.
It's one thing to try to influence people to do your bidding, but to put a collar on your blood son, your son, possessing him to be someone completely different and giving a whole new spirit to that body. What is the reason for that? What's the reason?
What was the reason?
It don't make no sense.
No, it's really scary because I feel like Dorian, we already know, is so powerful. And it seems like the most powerful people that had magic before are the most evil type people with those collars and those rings. And also we know from this book that the collars house the higher level Valg or the higher level demons, whatever you want to call them. So Dorian he's fucked.
Poor baby.
Also, no one at this point has been able to remove the collars or remove the rings and save the person.
Mm-hmm.
So Dorian
is stuck.
Sayonara, I guess.
Sayonara.
I don't know if that's how it's going to go.
Sayonara.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words for this book?
No, I just loved this book so much. I feel like this book, it had so much in it, so much information. We learned so much about all the characters. We learned, we really got up close and personal with Aelin. We got up close and personal with Dorian and his story. We learned that we hate Chaol, and we introduced so many new characters. This, for me, was a very overwhelming book to read because there were so many new POVs. And in the previous books, there were very few POVs. It was mostly Aelin / Celaena. And I'm just really excited to keep going. What about you?
Yeah. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed meeting the new characters. I had, I already told you, I'd seen a lot of stuff online about Rowan and Manon. And so I was excited to finally meet them and read their parts. And I'm excited to see how their journeys go. Actually, I'm really confused because I don't know what's going to happen with Rowan because Aelin left Rowan at Wendelin and she's going back to Rifthold because he would blow her cover. So I don't know where he's going to come back in at. And then Manon, she just seems like a really bad bitch who's starting to evolve. And I'm excited to see her story develop more. This was the first book I think that I gave out of the Throne of Glass series that I gave like a 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
I was really invested. There was a lot of information. There was lots of story build up. And now I'm like, I'm ready for more. So This is like a 4.5 for me.
I think I've paused on my rereads because we also, it's been a slow process recording and stuff. But I think for the next upcoming episodes, I'm going to reread the Queen of Shadows book along with it too. And I'm really excited about that because I love Queen of Shadows.
Yeah.
Each book is just getting a little bit better, a little more exciting, a little more information. Like it's such a build up. This series is such a build up all the way through. Like each book is good, good standalone, but like as a series, it just keeps getting a little bit better.
Yeah, I love how Sarah J. Maas's mind works because that is just thinking of all the books that she wrote, how she came up with these plots and the development of characters and the plot twists that come in and out of everything. It's just insane. Like, how does her brain hold all of that?
Should we even have started with this series? Like, where are we even going to go from here with the podcast?
I know. No, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, literally, what's next? What are we going to do after this?
Yeah.
So if anybody has any book suggestions that they want their friends to read and their friends aren't reading, let us know and we'll read it for them.
Like some epic series books type things.
Yeah. Series. Yeah. I like that. All right. So that's the end of this week's plot. Next week, perhaps, come back as we take a peek at Sarah J. Maas's Queen of Shadows, chapters 1 through 10.
And be sure to follow us on TikTok at plot.peak and Instagram at plotpeak podcast for all things plot peak and drama and book updates and our life updates. And if we're going to be delayed for weeks at a time,
Perhaps. I didn't actually let anybody know that we were delayed. I just stopped.
I did on TikTok.
But I'll do better this time. I'll do better this time. If we have any more IT issues, I will let you guys know.
We're happy to report that this episode has gone rather smoothly. So,
yeah,
fingers
I
crossed.
actually almost cried because of how smoothly it went. So,
yeah.
Here's to the next.
Watch us get to the end of this and like nothing's recorded. I'm like, oopsies.
I will throw my computer at the
I didn't hit record. Oopsies.
That would be the icing on the cake, actually.
Yeah, we'd have to quit.
We're
going to need a long, good period of like good, easy recordings for us to remain positive after this.
Any other inconvenience?
We're going to be like,
done.
that's it. It's over.
It's got to go.
It's not meant to be.
T.
Anyway.
All right. Well,
goodbye.
That's it, guys. Goodbye.